Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and radio. Yes, in case you haven't heard, it is official. We have our own radio channels as well. And I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK. I'm so thrilled to have you here today. Our show is Leadership of the Heart. We've got an incredible guest today who's going to be discussing her journey from Hollywood to healing. Before we bring her out, I want to welcome my co-host. She is the trifecta of everything here at USA Global TV, which means in addition to being a co-host, she's one of our expert presenters on the Talking Heads platform, and she's also an elevated listener. This means she is someone who really cares about offering a safe space for people to share their stories. So please do reach out to her. She's a leadership and transformation coach, and she happens to be my friend and my personal and business coach. Let's welcome MARISKA joining us from New Zealand. Welcome, New Zealand. Yay. You know how much I love saying that. How are you today, dear?
I am really good. Actually had a really great weekend. Got quite a few things done around the house. So I'm feeling like my week is starting on a very positive up note. So, yeah. Fabulous.
I'm glad to hear it. How's Tuesday looking since you're a day ahead of us?
Tuesday, it's a little bit cloudy today, which is okay. We don't mind the rain. We actually planted some grass. So as long as there's no storms and the water's running, rain would actually be really good. So Tuesday is looking up.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. You know, there's so much in life to be thankful for, and none of us get through this journey without things happening. And we don't always wish for the things that happen to us, but what we find is that they take us down a path where we get to make choices. And depending on what the choices are, the outcomes are related. So we've got an amazing person backstage. I want to bring her out as quickly as possible because she has so much to share. Her name is Laura Saltman, and she has accomplished so much in her life. She's been on major platforms, and I want to thank Vanessa Labarca for bringing her to this platform. I really do appreciate it. Vanessa is truly a wonderful person. She's been on our shows before as well. But Laura is a mindfulness, meditation, and metaphysical teacher. We want to find out what is metaphysical for people who are not sure. She's also an author, and I believe she has 4 books out as of 2021. She's a speaker, and she is a TV host. She has been on major platforms, as I mentioned. She's been with Ryan Seacrest. She's been on Lifetime Television. She has been a red carpet reporter to a Hollywood healer, but she's had a lot of things that have happened in her life, one after another, that for another person, they might not have made it through the way that she has. So let's welcome her and hear her story. Welcome to the show, Laura Saltman. Hi.
Hi, ladies. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. We're so happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, you were talking about, the ever-present challenges, and I was hit with a really bad cold this weekend. So I'm like, okay, what is this teaching me right now? And it really, I had that moment where I was like, it's teaching me to really have reverence for my body, because I think I take it for granted sometimes. And when you're not feeling well, it reminds you like, wow, I get to wake up every morning and feel good in my body. So it was a good lesson. But if I'm a little hoarse, you'll know why today.
Well, Laura, thank you for sharing that. I just said to MARISKA before we went live that I got hit with the cold over the weekend, and I've been sneezing. I was like, I hope I can make it through the show. So welcome. And by the way, I love the way you're dressed and your makeup. You match with our background perfectly. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, look at that. See, I didn't even know. Perfect. So, and I never wear this color, so apparently something inside of me must have known to match with you.
Yes,
it's so perfect.
You look great. You look beautiful. So thank you for being here. As you know, our show is Leadership of the Heart, and there's all type of leadership skills, and there's a leader in each and every one of us. And you had your calling based on a number of things that had happened to you. So I'd love to just spotlight you and have you share your story wherever you want to begin.
Yeah, so I started in entertainment news. I wanted to be an entertainment reporter, and I worked my little butt off to get there through hard work, determination. And what I now understand was really the journey belonged to me, that I was creating it for myself. And I had an incredible time working in Hollywood. I worked for Access Hollywood. I was on red carpets, going to the Oscars, the Emmys, the Golden Globes, living my dream. And what I had wanted to be, which was a red carpet reporter. I used to always say that I wanted to not be a celebrity, but interview celebrities and really get to know them. And I did that for many, many years. And then in 2013, I lost my brother to stomach cancer. And that really changed my view of life and what we were meant to do on this planet. And then about a year and a half later, I lost my father to suicide. And then that really changed my perspective about everything. And it just sent me on this journey of healing and transformation, because I didn't want to end up like my father did. My grandmother had struggled with schizophrenia. My father had struggled with mental illness after losing his son. And I just didn't want to go there. And I guess I always had that fear within myself that that could have happened to me. So I was at this point where I'm like, I'm just going to do anything I can to help myself. And I had a son, and I think my son is the reason why I just stood up and said yes. And then a lot of other things happened. It's like this spiral that kept going beyond just my dad and my brother. Both of my dogs died, one after the other. I had 2 back-to-back miscarriages. And then my career really like completely fell apart because I was lost. I mean, I didn't know where I was going to be going. I had lost my 2 family members that we were such a close family. And I just found myself at a point where I didn't even want to be doing. I just thought like, oh, working in Hollywood, it's so shallow now. And does it really matter? And I know now that it was just my pain, because there are some, great benefits to Hollywood. A lot of that stuff brings us joy, and not all of it, but some of it. So I just decided to fix my life. And so I started working with a spiritual life coach. And she really set me on this new path and this new journey that I've been on now for the last 7 or 8 years of just awakening and becoming that mindfulness, meditation, and metaphysical teacher that you spoke of.
Well, first of all,
Wow.
Thank you so much for your transparency and sharing your story. And I'm sorry for all that you've lost. I can't even imagine what that would be like, one after another. And yes, waking up going, why am I here? I'm thinking that you're probably like, I'm in so much pain. Is it ever going to end? What am I supposed to do with it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I honestly, the only thing that got me out of bed for a while was my son, that I knew I had to get up for him. And he was such a light in my life. But that it's like, I always say, it's like coins in a piggy bank. Every time you show up for something, whether it's going to therapy, whether it's meditation, whether it's doing something mindful, every time you say yes to yourself, to healing and transforming, you're dropping coins in your piggy bank. And then you become a little bit happier. So it took me a while to shift into some sort of happiness that got me forward. And then as I felt happy, I wanted to continue feeling happy. So I just kept doing more and more things to bring myself there. And after a while, I was like, oh, I don't want to go back to that other place anymore. So I'm going to stay on this path and this journey. And that's what I've been doing now. And I haven't stopped and haven't turned around, even though, hiccups occur here and there, not the way that they did back then. But I definitely have, some things that happen. But I just now have the tools. I have the tools of transformation that allow me to get through any situation.
Thank you. Thank you. The question I have for you, then we'll go to Mariska, is, as you know, with what's been going on in the world, and it seems every day there's something else that is going on, that the mental health of us as a global community is really, in some cases, being tested over and over and over again. When you were going through the tests that you were going through, how long did it actually take you before you could feel like that piggy bank was starting to ramp up and you were starting to feel good inside? Was it months, years? I mean, can you share more with our audience?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I would say like probably it took me about 6 months before I actually wasn't depressed anymore, where I was like getting out of bed and being happy about it. And also, I mentioned the miscarriages, but I was also at the time trying to adopt. And the 3 times that we tried to adopt, they all fell apart. So then it was like the compounded of that. So it just kept adding up and adding up. But even during that time, I still was going to therapy. I still was doing things to help myself. So even though that was a very dark time, I was able to get out of that and continue on the journey. I would say like it took me about a year before I finally was happy again. And then it took me about 2 years before I finally left my spiritual life coach that I was working with. And I was like, oh, I've got this now. And I work with clients one-on-one too. And she said to me what I say to my clients, like, my goal is not to keep you as a client. My goal is to allow you to find your light within yourself and to transform. I'm just here to give you information of how to do that. So I would say 2 years was how long it really took me before I could stand on my own 2 feet. And so if anybody who is struggling, I mean, I get it. I understand it. There's a lot of things to trip us up. There's a lot of fearful things in the world that we see all the time. But I also know that if you make that commitment to the transformation, to the healing, to uncovering the self that is within you that has all the answers for yourself, then you can go from unhappy to happy and then to thriving.
I love that. I love that hope and inspiration. Mariska?
Well, as you were talking, one of the things that came up for me, and I'm sure you see that different with the different clients that you work with, because all our journeys are so different, is there any, I'm very careful to say one thing, but a thing that any of us can start with now, today, to help us on this journey, to just take that one little step towards a better, thriving life?
Yes, I would say close your eyes. Close your eyes, honestly, because people will say, oh, meditation. But you know what? For some people, meditation is not, they can't figure it out. It can be really difficult in the beginning, but just close your eyes for a moment and just begin to breathe, because all of the answers that you're seeking, they're not outside of yourself. You're not going to see them in the physical world. It's always coming from inside yourself. So when you close your eyes, you shut off this physical part of yourself and you allow that metaphysical part of yourself, the inside of yourself, to bring you the answers. So when I'm struggling, when I'm having hard days, I simply close my eyes for as much as I can stand to see what comes to me. And you notice in the biggest moments in people's lives, you'll notice that they just close their eyes for a second, where it's just like, and then they take that breath, and either they're experiencing joy in that moment or they're taking that pause to figure out, how can I not be so unhappy right now? So definitely closing the eyes. And I also am a medium and I channel for people. So if you ever watch me when I do those things, my eyes are always closed, because that's how all of those images and thoughts and sounds, and even like I get, feelings, that's how it all comes in. It doesn't come in when my physical eyes are open. It only comes to me when they're closed. So close your eyes and just breathe.
Excellent. That's something we can all do right away. When did you realize you had these gifts?
Probably like my late 20s. I used to be the kooky girl that I'd like walk into a room and be like, somebody died here. And I just knew. And no, like everyone was like, what? How do you know that? I'm like, I just can feel it. I know I can feel it. And then I didn't really do much with it. I just kind of always knew that I had like this sharp skill, and I didn't know what it meant for myself. And then it took me probably about 15 years to cultivate that within myself. I didn't understand what it was at all until I started on the journey of my spirituality. And that's when I started to understand, like, it's actually a skill. It's an ability. I don't call it a gift. Some people call it a gift. I say it's an ability that you can cultivate within yourself. And we all have the ability to cultivate that connection. It's just most of us either don't care, don't want to, don't know. And I really enjoy it. I mean, I've learned so much as a medium, more than I could ever learn in any book that exists on earth, than I've been able to learn by channeling and speaking to spirit on the other side. And so I own it because I love it so much, and it's changed me. And it's one of the things that has helped me transform and heal, is to really recognize and understand that this journey that we're living is not the whole picture, and also that it's not the end. And there's way more to our story than we ever could imagine.
Thank you. What would you say are your greatest takeaways from the first chapter, the Hollywood chapter, that you've incorporated into this chapter?
Oh, thank you for that question. Self-worth. I think when I worked in Hollywood, I had no self-worth. I had no value. I did not value myself. I didn't think I belonged there. I didn't think I was pretty enough. I didn't think that I had the look. And it was always backed up by somebody. You know, my boss would say, "Ah, you're not host material." But in the same vein, what I had was that determination within myself that it didn't matter if I didn't look the part, that I was going to do it because it brought me joy. And so I just like circumnavigated my lack of self-worth with my determination that I could do and be and have anything that I wanted. And that's really how I got to there. But it wasn't until I started this new journey that I actually realized that it was my lack of self-worth that stopped me from being, a bigger piece of the Hollywood puzzle. And it had nothing to do with me. All the people I thought were holding me back, I now realized it was me holding me back. And so I took what I learned from that particular career, and now I'm using that in this career so that I don't create that for myself again.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I could ask a million questions. I'm going to go to Mariska again.
See, and these topics are so interesting. So yes, millions of questions do come up. And what I was wondering is, so you worked in, I almost want to say, this place of glamour with people that are just human, like the rest of us, although sometimes we treat them as superhuman. And now you are working with, well, superhumans, because they're not always human.
I like that.
And I'm wondering, having this shift of one area to another area and leading within that space, what do you find is ways that you do that with ease?
Well, it's funny that you say that about the celebrities, because it's really true that we're all just human. And even though somebody, you may see pretty pictures of them, and you may, know that they have way more money than all of us have, it doesn't mean that they're free of problems and insecurities and issues. That is what I witnessed from my career in Hollywood to even now, because I still do work with celebrities, because, I'm in that world, and those are the people that I've been around for so long. And it just became so clear to me. Like, I always thought they had it all together. And now I'm just like, wow, they really don't. They're still dealing with the same insecurities. They're still here learning the same types of lessons, just in a bigger format, in a bigger forum. They still have anxiety and depression. And I think we've seen that over the course of, Hollywood history, people who do struggle and then turn to addictions, the outside things, to heal them. So, I take that to heart when I work with people, to know that it's not everybody's journey here to be happy 100% of the time. One of the things I've been learning about over the course of this journey for myself is about the brain and how the brain works. One of the companies I work for, a wellness coach, I must talk about neuroscience like at least once a week with a coach there. And so I've learned that our brain isn't operating in the joy, it's operating in the negative. And we actually have to flip the switch on that. So imagine if you're a celebrity and your negativity bias comes in, and then you've got all these flash bulbs in your face all the time, and the paparazzi are following you, and there's all this pressure to make a successful movie or to, grow your Instagram account. It brings about the same anxieties and depressions that we have, because it's tied back to worthiness and value, or impatience, or some of these, what I would call big life driving themes that we all have to work through. And so it's always a collective journey to overcome these type of things, whether you're doing it individually or whether you're doing it collectively. We always have to overcome through our own processes whatever is going on within us, wherever we are in this world.
Thank you, Laura. We're going to take a break, but before we do, I just want to tee up something that hopefully we can talk about after the break. I remember when I went to college, I went to a very big school, and I was always known by my social security number. And I never liked that. I just felt like, wow, aren't I a person? And now as we fast forward all of these years, everything when it comes to social media is how many views, how many followers, how many likes, how many this, how many that. And it gets to the point, wait a minute, I'm not good enough. I don't measure up, or I better do this. But it's actually not the number. It's the actual connecting with someone. And I know that's what you help people do, help them connect with themselves in a very deep way. We talk a lot on this platform with different experts about how we're as a humanity, we're out of whack when it comes to our spirituality and also our self-care. And I know that you help people with these things.
Absolutely. And what you said about social media is so true. If you look at my social media numbers, you would think I was not successful at all. And I'm okay with that because I do know that it is about the relationship and the connection. And I'm not, I come from Gen X. So social media for me was a new experience. Doesn't come natural to me. I don't love it. But I also know that in the several years that I've been doing what I do, especially working with people one-on-one, that it's made such a difference in people's lives. So I really had to take stock of it and say to myself, am I doing this out of a sense of I want to serve, or am I doing this out of self-serve? And I don't ever want to be self-serving. And I think, unfortunately, in social media, we are constantly self-serving. So I've had to reframe it. And like, is this worthy of posting because it's serving this collective or helping people, or is it just trying to make me look good? So I don't really do that anymore, which I'm very proud to say. I think there's like social media, as we were talking earlier about the mental health issues. I think social media is one of the biggest reasons why we struggle with mental health, because we're looking at everybody and what they're doing and then comparing ourselves to them, and that person has more followers and that person's prettier than me, that one's younger than me, this one's smaller than me, this one's taller than me. And that's what keeps us stuck. There's a quote that I love from the Buddha, and it says, all human suffering is caused by wanting things to be different than they are. And I think it's so true. We want something that we think isn't attainable, and then we spend our life worrying that we're never going to attain it and actually never living life to the fullest. So I'm trying to help people live life to the fullest.
And that is so important. On one of our shows, one of our co-hosts lost her daughter to suicide, and she said to the audience out there, we don't know how many people are watching on the live or the replay at any moment, but if anyone's out there struggling, and someone came forward, they put a comment and said, I'm really struggling, I'd like to contact you. And now they came together. So to me, that's what it's about, right? It's not about the numbers. It's about truly connecting with someone. And that's what you're doing, Laura. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And I try to do, it's fun when you say that, like I try to do live and the reason I like to do live and I don't like to do recorded stuff is because I like to live in now. And when you are in now, it's what's happening right in this moment. So when I do mediumship and channeling, and I'll do it on different platforms, I always try to do it live because I want that connection right then. And that's really the only moment we have is now. So live is such a special connecting moment for all of us. And and you're right. It doesn't matter whether it's one person saw it and you helped that person see things differently in that moment, or whether it's a million people. We are all here to serve. And so sometimes we don't even realize that we showed up somewhere because somebody needed to hear the message that you were speaking right in that moment that was going to help them make that choice to transform in that moment. So just remember that about yourself. Like, I'm here to serve, and how can I serve? And is this what I'm doing right now, serving the world? So I'm grateful to be here with you right now live.
Well, we're so happy to have you here. And I know you're coming back on Friday also for our other show, Diversity to Awesome. So we have a lot more to chat about. We're going to take a quick break. And you mentioned before, and I love this about closing your eyes. So we're going to take a look at this clip. It's called Take a Moment. And we'll see another clip, and then we'll be right back. So let's take a moment. We'll be right back with Leadership of the Heart.
Take a moment. Take a moment. Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
Take a moment.
So I've had the privilege of photographing some incredible people over the years, and during each shoot I've asked the subject to close their eyes and take themselves to a peaceful place just for a few seconds. I've found that this really helps to refresh the energy between the camera and the subject. They had an energy that was quite special and quite different from the rest of the shoot. The collection grew, and now it feels the right time to use it for something good. I think it'd be amazing if we could help to raise awareness and involve people in the discussion about mental health. So what we're asking to do is for everyone to upload their own self-portraits. All of these portraits will become part of a massive artwork. I'm really excited to see this project go from hundreds of pictures to thousands of pictures. Essentially, an ever-evolving artwork that says we're all in this together.
Close your eyes and take a moment. Ours is a world of wonder. Every day it reminds us of its beauty. It touches us, teaches us, and astounds us. But it also warns us that what we throw away does not go away. That higher temperatures mean a lot more than longer summers. That we can no longer take life as we know it for granted.
We are at a unique stage in our history. Never before have we had such an awareness of what we are doing to the planet. And never before have we had the power to do something about that.
Welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. Our show today is Leadership of the Heart. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, joined by my co-host MARISKA and our special guest, Laura Saltman. Laura shared with us in the first part of our show that she had this incredibly glamorous life. She was really good at what she did, and had nothing to do with her. Her life was filled with unforeseen tragedies, losing her brother, losing her father, miscarriages, losing her dogs, and questioning why was she doing what she was doing. And from there, she is taking the next step, I think 7 or 8 years now, into helping other people. She is a mindfulness, meditation, and metaphysical teacher, as well as an author and a speaker and a TV host. She is here to talk to us about how we can get unstuck from all the things that weigh us down. We're going to talk a little bit now about worthiness in the workplace as we question ourselves about our self-esteem, overachieving, underperforming, overperforming. Where does it stop? What can we do, Laura?
Well, first of all, I have to say, like, that was such a moment of precognition, because I had no idea that you were going to play that take a moment about closing your eyes. And then when I said, like, the number one thing you can do is close your eyes, I was like, just another one of those moments that I have in life that I always make me laugh. So I just wanted to say that, because I was sitting there smiling the whole time going, yep, that's how it all works. And that's why I continue the journey of, healing and transformation and trying to help people, because I want them to know, like, people would say that's a coincidence, right? That's a coincidence. Oh, no, that's not a coincidence. That's our precognition. That's me knowing that in some part of myself that is, I call it like above the equator in my conscious brain, I may not know it, but my unconscious brain underneath the equator knew that that was going to happen. So when I got asked that question, I brought forth that answer. And I think that's really what it is all about, is we have to know that beneath the parts of ourselves that we keep hidden are all of these answers to how we can transform, how we can change, how we can build up our piggy banks of spiritual and mental wealth.
Absolutely. You said that so well. Thank you. So we talked about what it took for you to overcome the incredible loss that you've had to overcome. And many people can relate to that. There's also a second chapter here, which is people who are in a job, in a career, they literally cannot stand it. And it's all about collecting the paycheck and the benefits. Oh, the benefits are so great, which is true, right? I hear that all the time from my friends in corporate. I retired in 2020 from corporate, but the benefits are great. The health insurance in the United States, yeah, that's covered by the employer in a lot of, it's great. But at times we're not being true to ourselves. And you realize that with what you were doing in your work, even though it was the glitz and the glamour and you were so good at what you were doing, you left it all behind. What can you share with our audience about how they can get the insights, the intuition to find their passion and do what it is they're called to do here?
Well, my journey is interesting though, because in the beginning, it was my passion. I loved it. I mean, I was getting to do all the things that I said I wanted to do in my life. But then it just became a different set of circumstances. As I evolved, as I changed, as I grew up emotionally and spiritually, and of course, physically, I began to change. And then the circumstances outside of me with the losses around me, I started to view the world differently. So I couldn't stay where I was. It didn't sit with me. It wasn't like, it was not what my path was anymore. So I could have stayed. I could have stayed for a long time. I'd probably still be there if I wanted to, but it wasn't where I wanted to go. So I had to take that leap of faith and make a change. So, and I sort of circumvented it. I didn't just like leave the entertainment industry altogether. I left and I started a production company with the notion that I wanted to put quality content. I wanted to put counter programming out there to some of the negativity that is in the media. And so I started this production company, and that really started, me on a different path. And then from there, I took the slow train, because for some people, I think it's very hard to take those leaps of faith. I understand that, money's tight, and, that fear that sits within us can be large. So I'm a big fan of like, do the practical things while you do the spiritual things and the mental things that are going to take you to that next goal. So if you are somebody who has that archetype of what I call the lion, where you can just take a leap and you just know that you're going to make it big, then absolutely, that's for you. But if you are an archetype that is what I would call a dreamer, and you only have big dreams, but you're not living them, then take the practical steps, just do some practical things. Maybe take a side job in something that you like, or can you take a job that maybe pays a little less, but allows you a little bit more time to do other projects. So you kind of like slowly move towards your goals. But also it becomes a journey of knowing that if you desire something in the first place, if you have a dream, a desire, something that you want to create, that it exists for a reason. It's a calling that you're called to. And I don't want anyone to not, like Wayne Dyer used to always say, don't die with your music still in you. Like that to me is the life I never want to live anymore. I don't want to die with my music still in me. I want to speak my truth. I want to go out and live a life of joy and not compromise myself anymore in this world. And I feel like I compromised a little bit of myself when I worked in Hollywood, because I did things and said things that I wouldn't have if I wasn't in that ego sense of myself of, oh, I need everyone to know who I am. So I get the journey. It's so interesting. Like whenever I'm doing interviews, people are always like, oh, your story's so sad. But truthfully, as much as it is sad, I have heard from so many different people that I work with who've had way more tragedies than I have, who've gone through way more upheaval and upset and are still, showing up for themselves. And so I know that from the biggest circumstances that you could ever think of to the smallest circumstances that, maybe you're young in your 20s and you have a little hiccup, that anybody can transform themselves, no matter how big the spectrum is of what you've been through.
Absolutely. I loved what you shared there, especially use the word ego. And I think given that our show is about leadership and being heart-centric, many times we're in our ego, or we work with someone who has an ego. How do you work with your clients to get them to tap into the spirituality so that they can lead with their heart?
Well, I would say my clients who come to me are already sort of like dipping their toes into the spiritual aspect. So it's not new to them. So they're more open to receive. They're more willing to experience it, even if it may not, be exactly their cup of tea. I have one client who told me when she first read my first book, she threw it against the wall. She's so mad at it. But, as she continued her journey, she realized that, the truths within it are true. You just have to unpeel the onion and the layers of falsities to get yourself there. So to me, ego is just fear. It's just that other part of ourself, that fearful part of ourselves that wants to be seen and heard, that wants to be rich, that wants to have power and have everything. And that's not the truth of who we are. We're not meant to get, we're meant to give on this planet.
Beautiful. Sorry, Mariska, I keep getting to the questions. I'm going to go over to you now.
Well, what I was wondering is, as you were talking, I know we've focused a lot on the individual, but I was wondering on the global, and you did mention this even before the break a little bit, our collective lessons, our collective being. What would you say as a collective, as humanity, we are supposed to work through, because we definitely need to work through a few things, that would actually help us as a collective to rise a few inches higher than we are at the moment?
Well, I mean, I could talk about that probably for hours. I guess I would say that the first thing is to know that it's not everybody's journey to overcome. It's not everybody's journey to recognize, who we are and why we are here. And that's okay. And so a lot of what we see in the world is people learning those lessons, and it can seem really sad and tragic. And so we have to learn to be the observer and not be so much of a participant in it, because I know that that's where some of the anxiety. So as you take that spiritual journey, you can, I guess I would say, let yourself off the hook a little bit by knowing that it is the journey of everyone individually and collectively. And then collectively, it starts from within ourselves. We cannot heal the entire world. We can only heal ourselves. But by you healing within yourself, you are helping to heal the world. So there's a quote that I had channeled a long time ago, and it says, when you are in service, you are healing. And when you are healing, you are in service. So if you show up in the world and you volunteer and be a good person and help in whatever way you can, then you're serving. But if you show up within yourself to heal the falsities of the illusion-based self, the ego and the fear, then you're serving this collective. And then the other thing collectively I will say is that if you want to know what we're thinking and believing as a collective, just see the world as example, because what happens on the outside is what came from the inside. So all of us collectively are just more in our fear mindset. We are in our ego. And so that's why we still see greed and power and madness and wars and all the things that are going on, is that collectively we haven't yet elevated the consciousness of this planet that will allow us to have an easier time. But having said that, if we look back at the history, we can say that we have elevated our consciousness a little bit. We haven't, we're not doing some of the things that we used to do, excuse me, not in the same way. And so it has to come from each one of us. And that's what I do every day, is I try not to get caught up in the collective. I try to be the voice of reason for the collective, that when I meditate, when I try to see the world as, being a happier world, I try to spread love and positivity. And I know for some people it can sound so, woo-woo or hokey. And those are the people that just it may not be for them. They're not ready to become aware. But I promise you, if you do take that journey, if you go on that journey, within a year or two, you're going to realize that exactly what I'm saying is the truth. You just have to find it for yourself. I can't teach you. I can only show you what I've learned, and then you can decide for yourself on your own journey whether it lands and resonates for you.
Excellent. And Laura, what are your thoughts about this? And then I'll go over to Mariska. So many times someone will say to me, you know, I know what I'm hearing is probably true, and there are things that I really should change, but I don't want to put the work in because I have to make an effort. And now, not making an effort, I could just spend my life being miserable and complaining. But I know there's something else out there for me. I just don't want to do the work.
Well, and that's their journey, and maybe that is their journey, is that they've chosen that this is the life that they're going to lead, and it really does come down to choice. We have free will on this planet that we can do whatever we want. We can either lean into fear or we can work towards love. And so, you know, if someone comes to me and says, I don't want to do the work, and I said, then you're not going to receive the perk. If you don't do the work, you won't receive the perk. So if you want to stay in that, you know, fail safe of misery, then it really is a choice. And then I believe, just because I witnessed it with my father, it does become at some point where if you are struggling with mental illness, at some point it's almost like the scales tipped, and I couldn't get him back. He wasn't willing to take that journey. And whatever I said went in one ear and out the other with him. And then eventually what I had to do is I had to let go. I had to realize that my father's journey was maybe coming to a completion. It's obviously not what I would have wanted for him, but he had taken himself down such a dark path that there was no coming back from it for him. And I wish there was, and I wish that something I would have said would have landed for him. But because he lacked that willingness, that is the journey that he took for himself. But I hope that anybody would just put a willingness, and a willingness is a superpower. Just be willing to show up every day, even when it's hard, even when it's difficult. Like yesterday, I felt so miserable. I had the worst headache. And I just, like, all I could do is just put a hot compress on my head to get rid of the headache. But that was a willingness. I could have either bitched and moaned about feeling sick, or I could do something to help me. And so be your own hot compress in your life. Just do something to help you, because it does get compounded. As I said, it is those coins in the piggy bank. That willingness can help you change and transform. And I've seen it time and time again. I've seen so many people who have made these changes in their life that have transformed themselves.
Well, you are definitely a bright light, and I'm so glad that you're here today. Mariska, last question for you.
Ooh, that's a lot of pressure. I want to make it a good one then. Let's see. Last question. Okay. So we know that when we're in a space where we might not preferably want to be, closing our eyes is a good first step to take that next step. And you did say the willingness. Now, I don't know of anybody on this planet that cannot willingly close their eyes. Please don't do this if you're driving. But other than that, close your eyes is a pretty easy step to take. What would you say is any other things that we might be able to do that would be easy enough for us to take that step when we feel that we are drowning just a tad more than we should be?
Yeah, this is a question I get a lot from people that I work with, and that is ask for help. So that doesn't mean the externals help. Yes, absolutely. Ask for help. Go see a therapist, go to a clinic, go to a church, a synagogue or mosque, whatever you know is, if that's where you need to go. But just ask for help. Don't sit stuck in your misery. Ask for help. But when I say ask for help, to me, it's an inside thing. So when I'm struggling, I know that I'm struggling, and then I reach into myself, that part of myself that is connected back to whatever your version of creator is, or the source, the universe. There's so many different words that people use for it, whether it's God. And that's where I ask for help. I'm struggling. I need help. Help me find a solution. And then what I've found is just by asking for help is something's going to show up for you, whether it's a sign, a message, a symbol, whether it's your mom calling you, like literally at that moment when you ask for help, whether it's seeing a license plate that reminds you back to something that happened to me one time, whether it's you overhearing a conversation in that moment. The minute that we ask for help, it's like giving ourselves that freedom to experience what this life really is all about, which is joy. But if we don't ask for help, we're never going to get to joy. So always help. I probably ask for help like a million times a day sometimes. That's what I do when I was sick over the weekend. I just kept asking for help. What should I do now? Okay, I'm going to put the hot compress. Oh, let me grab a crystal and put that on. Oh, let me go outside and I'm going to walk with my feet in the ground and just get some soil under my feet. And I know for myself, if I hadn't done that, I probably would have gotten more sick. But I also know that just by leaning into the asking and listening and following that inner guidance, that I took myself out of that circumstance much more quickly than I have in the past. Where in the past, I would have had to go get antibiotics. I would have had to visit the doctor. But this time, I just knew, I had that inner knowing that I was going to move through it much, much quicker by that asking. So I always say asking is a soul's knowing. When you ask, you're tapping into your soul. And then when you ask for help, it's healing everything love placed. So knowing that no matter what we're going through, it's been placed here by our spirit, by our soul, to help evolve us and grow us and change us. And when we know that, then we know that we also have the answers of how to move through those challenges.
Yes, I love that. Excellent. Thank you. And Laura, for people who want to reach out to you and get in contact, we have all of your social media information, but if they're unable to read the banners or they're listening on the radio, how would you like people to reach out to you, and who would you like to contact you?
Yeah, just reach out to me either on my website, laurasaltman.com. You can find me on Instagram. Feel free to jump into my DMs. And I really work with people in many different capacities. So I work as a spiritual life coach, helping people with those inner transformations. I also function as a medium and a channel. So people come to me looking to connect to a loved one in spirit. I also, and I don't know if a lot of people know what a channel is, but basically I'm able to speak for spirit. So someone on the other side may come through and I'm able to speak for them. And then I'm also able to channel collectively. So I channel for source, whatever your word for that creator is. And I'm able to bring through wisdom and actually channel every day. So I channel daily quotes for my, my Instagram called Wisdom of the All. So you can find me at either of those places.
Fantastic. And I'm so excited you're going to be back with us on Friday for Adversity to Awesome. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. This is my pleasure and to be here. And I appreciate you holding space while I was like not feeling at my 100% getting over being sick. So with my raspy voice, but although some people might like my raspy voice better. So
no, you look and sound beautiful. So we're glad that you were able to be here for the show, and look forward to people reaching out to you and getting in touch with who they are, their spirituality, feeling better, and volunteering and helping others.
Amazing. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much. We'll see you again Friday. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic, Laura. Mariska, we've got a show coming up right after this. I'm going to spotlight you. How can people get in touch with you, and how do you help people?
So I help people in the leadership and transition or transformation journey. And they can get hold of me via my email, which is mariska@journeytodiscover2.com. Or alternatively, they can also find me on LinkedIn. And please connect and send me a message on what it is that I might be able to help you with. And then, of course, I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, although not that active. So you can go there and stalk me if you want. But it might maybe take me a while to actually see if you did leave a message.
All right. Thank you very much. No stalking allowed. Connecting, but no stalking. All right. Thank you, Mariska. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Yes, we will.
Actually, your Thursday. So, all right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Our next show is coming up. It's called Take Steps and Kick IBD, Irritable Bowel Disease. And our guest is Dr. Neil Nandi from University of Pennsylvania. So stay tuned. We'll be coming back in less than 10 minutes. Thank you again for being here. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, please go ahead and just click subscribe. So easy. Subscribe. And then you'll be informed of all of our 20 to 25 shows that we have. We have new shows coming out the first week of May. It's very exciting. And we'd love to have you with us for as many shows as possible, because we're all about education as well as entertainment. All right, as I said, we'll be right back in less than 10 minutes. You stay where you are. I'm going to go over to the other studio. Thanks again. Bye.
you.